Sisters and brothers, wisdom and foolishness are on display in our readings today. In our first reading from the book of wisdom, we learned that wisdom is something to be sought after, to be deeply appreciated, and the author uses the convention of personifying wisdom. This was a technique used by Greek philosophers in which they would take a quality or a characteristic or something that humans desire and then treat it as if it were a person. And so in this case, wisdom appears as a woman to be courted and wooed. However, wisdom will also seek those who are worthy of her and will wait patiently for those who seek to possess her. Well, this is a convention that we use as well. For example, we personify liberty, which, like wisdom, is a quality of all humans, or a concept conceived of by humans. And it is also depicted as a woman. A good example of this is the Statue of Liberty in New York. And for a long time in our country, our coins were stamped with a depiction of liberty as a woman. Now, wisdom is defined by Webster as the quality of having good judgment. Foolishness, of course, would be the opposite of that, lacking good judgment or having poor judgment. So what we are being presented with here, this desire for wisdom, I think we can easily see or equate with God, since God is the source of all wisdom. Therefore, in looking at it in that way, God is what we seek above all. God will grant us wisdom, that is, good judgment. And then in our gospel today, Jesus uses a parable to illustrate the point that those who seek the kingdom of God must be wise, that is, use good judgment. To be foolish about the things of God is to court disaster in the life to come. The parable is that of 10 maidens who, according to custom, are to await the arrival of the bridegroom at a wedding. The wise ones are prepared, and they have brought extra oil for their lamps, which they are to keep burning brightly until the arrival of the bridegroom. The foolish ones have not brought any extra oil, and when the bridegroom has not come, they've run out of oil, and now they have to go and buy some. Well, of course, as they go to buy the oil they need, that is when the bridegroom arrives and the wedding begins, and they are locked out. The parable is meant to tell us that the wise person will be prepared for when they are called before God's judgment seat. The foolish person is the one who is unprepared when judgment day arrives. The truth of this would seem very obvious, but in reality it is a lesson lost on many people. Many people believe that their own judgment will be far down the line. So I'll start with an example from my priestly ministry, something that is of concern to me and I believe many of my brother priests. And it has to do with the sacrament of reconciliation. Now, at the one extreme, there are people who put off the sacrament. They receive it at First Communion. Maybe they go a few times when they're young, but then they reach adulthood, and for years and years, they go without receiving the sacrament of reconciliation. They are foolishly relying on the fact that they will always have an opportunity. The problem with that is that the Lord may come sooner than they think. Therefore, it is important, brothers and sisters, to receive the grace of the sacrament, forgiveness of sins, when the opportunity arises. Now, at the other extreme, though, are those who come in every week, nonstop. They are, in their own way, foolish. The purpose behind the sacrament of reconciliation is not just to forgive sins. That is certainly what happens. The sins we have committed are forgiven. But it is also about forming the firm commitment not to sin in the future. And so if you're not able to go without sin for 1 week in the course of a year, you're not working hard enough at it. It is just as likely that God will come to that person when they are not ready, as for those who wait 10, 20, or 30 or more years before they go to receive the sacrament. So there needs to be a good balance there. The wise person will set their life on the proper course and avoid sin to begin with. But then in the course of life, when they fail and have sinned, they will go and seek the sacrament of reconciliation. But it takes both. It's not just, well, I'm going to wait forever and do whatever I want and hope that the Lord won't come before I'm ready. Or say to myself, well, I'll just go every single opportunity I have, and that way he'd have to squeeze it in somewhere between my confessions where I would really be at risk. Neither one is good. We commit ourselves to doing what is right. We receive the sacrament when we have failed and are in serious sin. And in our second reading, St. Paul makes it clear to the Thessalonians and to us that foolishness is also to believe that we do not have an immortal soul. When we die, our souls await the resurrection. And so we must always be about the work of preparing ourselves for God's judgment. Whether we are alive when he returns in his glory, or whether we have already passed from this world before then, will make no difference. It will be the same for all of us, with no distinction. We will appear before the Lord to give an accounting of our life. The wise person is the one who prepares for this and lives their life accordingly. The foolish person is the one who takes it for granted that they will enter the kingdom of heaven. Brothers and sisters, our call today is to be one of the wise, to be among the wise who follow the Lord and indeed are prepared for when he calls us to his judgment seat.